Namaste students, I am Shobha, Science faculty from Mangala Vidya Mandira. Today let us learn next chapter in science, that is chapter 12, Reproduction in Animals. We have learned about reproduction in plants in the lower classes, how they plant reproduce either vegetatively, asexually or sexually. All the three modes of reproduction in plants we have studied. So this year we are going to study how the reproduction takes place in animals. So these are the points that we are going to cover in this today's video. So in that, the first one is, what is reproduction? Reproduction is a process by which the living beings give birth to the new generations of organisms of the same kind. That is, a cat can give rise to cat, or a dog can give birth to a dog. So this is what is reproduction. It is nothing but giving birth to the new generation. It is very essential for the survival of all the species on the earth. So reproduction is very important. So a human ensures that the human species will continue to exist on this earth for all the time to come. So it is very important to continue our generations, and it also helps us to give rise to more and more organisms with the same characteristics of that parents. Our characters will be transformed to our kids. Similarly, the kids characters will be transformed to their kids, so their characters goes on exchanging. The newly born animal is called as young ones. We know different young ones are being called by different names in the animal category, so it will be called as young ones. So methods of reproduction. Usually students, in animals there are two types of reproduction, whereas in plants you would have studied three types, that is vegetative, asexual and sexual. Here in animals we are having only two types, that is asexual mode of reproduction and sexual mode of reproduction. So let us see first the sexual mode followed by asexual mode, because we have learnt many asexual method of reproduction in our lower classes. So what is asexual reproduction? The organisms, the production of a new organisms from a single parent, means either a male or a female, without involvement of any sex cells, or that is called as gametes. So sex cells are called as gametes. Without involvement of any gametes, if a new organism is being reproduced by the single parent, then it is called as asexual reproduction. Example is binary fission in amoeba. You have seen amoeba where it gets splitted apart, each bit will be formed into a new organisms. Sexual reproduction, where the new organisms are being formed from two of the parents by making use of their sex cells, or that is called as gametes. This is called as sexual reproduction. Example is fish, frog, human beings, etc. So let us see in this chapter particularly human reproductive system. So in human reproductive system we have two genders, male and female. So this is first is male reproductive part, or the male reproductive organ, so which consists of a pair of testes, scrotal sacs, epididymis, sperm ducts, seminal vesicles and penis. So these are the organelles of the male reproductive in human beings. These testes are the real reproductive organelles in the males. So this is where the sperms, so called the sperm cells of the male called as sperms, will be produced, and this testes helps the sperms to move from the male body to the female body. That helps in the fusion process, that is fertilization process. I'll tell you that process later on. So this is the external view of a male reproductive organ, consisting of all the following parts, where mainly it is the testes. Testicles, have you seen the testicles, where it is present, where it is a main place where the sperms will be produced, and through penis it will be discharged out. And coming to the female reproductive organ, so it consists of ovaries. You are having two ovary, and oviduct, that is a place, that is fallopian tubes also it is called as, and uterus, you can say uterus there, and vagina. So vagina, uterus, and inside uterus you are having two important parts, that is endometrium and cervix. So these ovaries are the real reproductive organs of the females, where they produce the male gametes called as egg or ova inside that ovary. Once they produce them in the ovary, they will be transferred through the fallopian tubes or the oviducts, and they will be released into this uterus. So in this uterus, the male gamete will come and fuse with them, and the process of fertilization takes place in the place of oviduct. So let us move to the stages of sexual reproduction. What are the stages which is involved in sexual reproduction? The first stage is fertilization. So what is this fertilization? It is nothing but the fusion of the genetic material. That is nothing but the gametes are there na. So male gamete and female gamete. So the fusion of this male gamete with the female gamete to form zygote is called as fertilization. So zygote is nothing but the fertilized product of sperm and the ova. Sperm and the egg, after fertilization, it gives rise to an special organ or a single celled organ called as zygote. The zygote is nothing but a fertilized egg. It is single cell, and thus we begin our life as a single cell. This single cell only starts dividing and it forms a new fetus inside the womb of a mother. So in this fertilization, students, there are two types of fertilization. You know what is fertilization? A male gamete fuses with a female gamete. It can happen in two ways. One is internal fertilization, where it happens in cows, dogs, human beings and all. The male gamete will be fertilized inside the body of the female gamete. Body of the female only. The male gamete fuses with female gamete. Whereas external fertilization means that takes place outside the body of the female. Example, fish and frog. What they do is they will lay their eggs on the seashores or on the water, where the male fishes leave their sperms on that eggs. So the fertilization takes place externally, not inside the body of the female. So such type of fertilization will be called as external fertilization. Second step or second stage, the zygote development. So as we have discussed, the zygote is a single cell that was formed when there is a fusion of male and female gamete. This zygote starts dividing repeatedly to give rise to a ball of cells. Multicellular cells started forming. As it passes from the fallopian tube into the uterus, it furthermore divides and develops into an embryo. So from the zygote, the next stage is embryo stage. This embryo, after it has been formed, it will be embedded in the walls of the uterus, and this process is called as implantation. So the female is then said to be pregnant or to have conceived. So after implantation only we will come to know that woman is pregnant. So after fertilization, immediately no one will be aware that they are pregnant or they are conceived. Only after the implantation, it takes around a month or a 1.5 months, 60 to 72 days to know that they are pregnant. The embryo generally develops body parts, and then later on, after the body parts are developed, that embryo now it will be called as fetus. So earlier, students, it was called as zygote. From zygote it was given the name as embryo. From the embryo it has given the name as fetus. When the development of the fetus is complete, the mother gives birth to a baby. After around 9 months, the baby will be born. So next stage, that is birth of the young ones. Animals which give birth to young ones, they are called as viviparous animals. Directly they give to young ones, they are called as viviparous, where they obtain their nourishment from their mother. Similarly, the animals which give birth to their young ones in the form of egg laying animals, then that animals is called as oviparous animals. Ovi means egg. So that embryo or nourishment is obtained from the yolk and the albumin present in that egg itself. So egg itself, it is having some nourishment thing. So from that only that young one will get its nourishment. The time between the fertilization and the birth of an young one is called as gestation period. Fertilization takes place the first step, right? So when male and female gamete fuses, process that is called fertilization. After a 9-month gap, the baby will be born. This complete 9 months duration, it will be called as gestation period. So as I told, what is viviparous and oviparous? Egg laying animals are oviparous. Directly young one laying animals are called as viviparous. Next stage, and young ones to the adults. The natural process by which an animal, after getting birth or hatching out, undergoes an abrupt changes. Abrupt means they develop legs. The leg starts, so first they will be start crawling, then they start a little bit walking, little bit shaky walking, then they start steadily walking. So these are all the changes, abrupt changes which is happening in our body structures, and they reaches an adult stage. This is called as metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is nothing but the abrupt change that happens in an young ones from their infant stage till the adult stage is called as metamorphosis. This metamorphosis can be easily stated with an example of frog. So it is a biological process by which an animal physically develops after giving birth or after hatching out, involving conspicuous and relatively abrupt changes in the animal's body through cell growth and differentiation. So as you can see here, students, initially it was in the egg condition. Later on, the eggs were being started to develop into embryo. Eggs will be fertilized with the male sperms, then it will be called as embryo. From embryo stage, they will be dividing slowly. Gills has been started developing. After that, you can see that there will be growth of skin on that, and tadpoles will be small tails will be started developing. After that, it will be having legs, hands and legs development will take place, and the tail becomes shorter and shorter. Finally, without a tail, adult egg frog will be formed. So this is called as life cycle of an frog, or you can call it as metamorphosis seen in the frog as an example. Coming to this asexual reproduction, students, is more about this we have studied already in our lower classes much. So I'll just go where there is no involvement of the male and female gamete will be called as asexual reproduction. Many types are there, only two we are going to study here. Once again, budding and binary fission. Budding means from the plant body a small bud will be cut off and it will be developed into a new plant body, that is called as budding. Binary fission means where a parent organism or a parent cell starts dividing to give two. Binary, bi means two, so there will be two daughter cells which is being formed from a single parent, either it may be a male or a female. So this is about the asexual reproduction. So there are different examples like hydra, and they are all undergoing asexual reproduction in the form of budding. Similarly, amoeba and many other unicellular organisms also undergo this type of binary fission, where they will be cut into two. So activity, students, for this chapter, you have to draw the neat labeled diagram of male reproductive part or organ, female reproductive organ, and the life cycle of frog. That is the metamorphosis diagram is there, that one. So you have to do all this in project book. Thank you.